What's up, my family? Listen, first-time listener, or you've been here the whole damn time. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, giddy up, let's go, no notes.
That's my baby. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the f*** are you talking about?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Hockey Happy Hour. We are live here on A2DRadio.com. I am Matt Sinsudi, along with the Dark Wing, Brian Daly.
I'm sitting on a chair today, and I'm not sitting on a toilet at the curb, like if you follow me on Instagram.
And if you are, then Brian appreciates your patronage. So over there,
You liked it, I appreciated that.
And the broken one himself, Rob Povia.
Does it get more cursed than the New York Jets? Yeah, the New York Mets, both of them. What the fuck?
What about the Yankees?
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't compare to either one of them. I don't even want to hear it. Not right now. Not right now, Brad. Not right now. The wounds are so fresh. Go on.
Okay.
And we have Mr. Switzerland himself, Big Bad Brad Ryer. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hockey Happy Hour, brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. If you got any aches and pains and you want to get those taken care of because, quite frankly, they're causing so much pain to you, you can't do your job well or do things in your personal life that are fun, then go to the doc. Dr. Paul has a great staff, highly trained professionals over in Cherry Hill or Burlington, New Jersey. And if you wish to make an appointment, all you got to do is go to www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com and head on over, and those aches and pains will be gone almost like magic. And before we go into the poll question, we're going to give our read to new sponsor here, RoyalBilliard.com or RoyalBillard.com. You can check out Royal Billiards and Recreation, the coolest place for all of your game room and man cave needs. For the last 41 years, this family-owned business has been the premier game room store of the Delaware Valley, stocked with the very best in pool tables and accessories, shuffle boards and card tables, dart supplies, bars and bar stools. Turn any ordinary room into an extraordinary gaming experience. Oh, and did we mention that they have hot tubs too? So you stop by Royal Billiards, located at 515 Bethlehem Pike in Colmore, Pennsylvania, or on the web. You can check them out at www.royalbilliard.com for everything fun for your home or office. All right. And the poll question for today, gentlemen, is the Boston Bruins will miss the playoffs after last season's dominance. Agree or disagree? We'll be breaking down the Bruins on today's episode, as you've probably read on the title. And we will see whether or not they have a chance to rebound after a disappointing end to last year. So, gentlemen, do you agree or do you disagree? Do you think that the Bruins will once again go back to where they were, being one of the top three teams in the Atlantic, or just getting back into the playoffs and having a chance to rebound? Or do you disagree? Do you think that the Bruins will be out?
I'll kick off here. See what's up to everybody. I'm gonna agree to the poll here. I don't think I think they missed the playoffs. I don't think they get there. I think they've lost a lot this offseason and they really haven't gained anything in return. You guys, I mean, you've seen Patrice Bergeron retired, David Krejci retired. You traded Nick Foligno and Taylor Hall. You brought in James vanRiemsdyk, who could be pretty good on the power play for Boston, but he's not going to give you much more than that anymore. Kevin Shattenkirk, who's nothing more than a top four defenseman at best. And they went out and they signed a bunch of younger players who, frankly, most of them I've never even heard of. The only good thing is you kept your goaltending as it was last year. You got Swayman and you got Olmark back there, who Olmark is your reigning Vezina winner. So, I mean, I think they could potentially be a bubble team, but I don't think this Boston Bruins team is going to be nearly as good as it was last year. Like, obviously you still have Brad Marchand is still a threat. You have David Pastrnak, who is going to be a top 3 scorer in this league, as he always is. But I don't think the depth is there like it was last year. I don't think you lost a lot of leadership in that locker room, losing Foligno and Bergeron. Even Krejci, you can argue Krejci in that, but I don't think this team is going to be nearly as good as it was last year. I would be very surprised if they make the playoffs this year.
All right, then. Who wants to take up now for the poll?
Okay, I'll take up the second one. And
All right.
I agree with Brian 100%. I don't think that the oh, shut up, Rosca. I'm sorry. I just couldn't help myself. He did that on purpose just to piss me off. Anyway, yeah,
Of course he does. He likes to start the fire.
Yeah. Whatever. It was started as soon as that first interception was thrown. Anyway, I agree with you, Brian, 100% about the Bruins. I just think that they've lost too much. They were a pretty old team. I mean, they did add our favorite goon, Milan Lucic. Let's not forget him. But I mean, he's not a goal scorer anymore. I mean, he'll be tough. The Bruins are always tough. I mean, we know that. That's just, they're synonymous with that. But you know what? The problem with them is as great as Pastrnak is, and as great as Marchand is, who's gonna jump up to the first line and conduct the conduct that orchestra? That's what I'm wondering. I mean, is Trent Frederick ready for that? Because if he is, maybe they do make the playoffs. But I don't know that I don't know if he's talented enough to be able to play with those kind of players and fit in well. Zaka, I mean, is he the answer? I don't know. And I just don't know who's going to play center and have those two guys flying the way they were with with Bergeron. I don't. Oh boy, you guys are all over me, aren't you?
Well, not all of them. There is Midwest Ranger Yeehaw. He's 100% behind you.
No, let's go Rangers.
Yeah. It says no, let's go Rangers in response to Tom, who said let's go Flyers.
Oh, okay. Okay. So there you go. In any of that, everybody's okay. I'm sorry. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, guys. And Kevin Shattenkirk is not even a top 4 defenseman anymore. He's more like a top 6, maybe top 7. That's pretty nice, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Top 7 defenseman now. I mean, he was very, very good at one time in his career, but he's not good now. He's more like on a good team. He's like the 7th defenseman who can come in, in the case of an injury and fill in and do a nice job like that. Maybe he can do something on the power play, but I just don't see it. I think Boston has just built themselves too big a hole last year, and I don't know if they've got the kind of farm system that can come up and bring them, all the way back. I just don't think they can. And when you take a look at teams like Buffalo and Ottawa and Detroit that they're going to have to fight with, it's going to be way too hard for them to make the playoffs. Not to mention their own division where you got Florida, Tampa Bay, Toronto. I mean, it's not going to be easy. I mean, are the Bruins better than the Islanders right now, or the Penguins? Because don't forget, if they want to come in, if they want to come in 4th, if they come in 5th, then they got to make sure they beat out the Bruins or the Islanders to come in, to make the playoffs. Now, I don't know that they could do that. So that's the thing. I just don't know that. I don't know that that's going to happen. I kind of doubt it. We'll get into the Buffalo Sabres next, but you take a look at the Buffalo Sabres roster and you take a look at the Bruins roster, and the Sabres are loaded with young talent and look like they're just about ready to make the push, and the Bruins are old and bringing in young players. We don't know if any of these guys are like top prospects. Nobody's really mentioned them before. You go into NHL.com and or not NHL.com. You go into NHL Network. Nobody's really raving about their young players from the farm that are going to get looked at this this training camp. So I can't see it happening.
All right, so we have basically from the way that the question is worded, we have one saying that the Bruins won't go. We have another one saying that the Bruins won't go. So now we turn it over to the broken one. How do you feel on this one, Rob? Do you feel that the Bruins get back in, or do you feel like the window's officially closed?
The window is officially closed for this team being dominant, but let me first start by I want to give a little congratulations to Brian Boucher. I got to bring it home to the Flyers. Got the job. He'll be the color analyst with JJ on NBC Sports Philadelphia, giving the Flyers broadcast. He's become a dynamite broadcaster, and it's just going to be a good addition to the team. So, congrats, Bucci. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. For the Bruins, I'm going to play a little contrarian here, right? And think that I'm going to disagree to this poll. I think that they actually will sneak into the playoffs because you still have David Pastrnak on this team. Pavel Zacha is not Patrice Bergeron. You're absolutely right. They've lost pieces. You don't replace Bergeron. You don't replace Krejci. But you got character guys like Charlie Coyle, Jake DeBrusk, right? Morgan Geekie on the third line is a quality center. These aren't household names, right? But this is going to be a new look Bruins team that can shut down teams, get a little defensive. You got Charlie McAvoy on the top pairing with Mac Brislick, right? I think this team has a chance that if they do miss the playoffs, it'll be narrowly. They won't be dominant. They certainly won't be the President's Trophy winner, but I say they get in.
All right, then. So you believe that the Bruins will get into the playoffs. Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
You didn't expect it. You thought I was about to trash the Bruins, didn't you? Nope.
I mean, the as a Flyers fan, I am a little bit shocked. But you know what? It goes to show that you're doing your research and you're taking off your fan goggles. And that's important to do when you're trying to give out facts here on the air.
I mean, I try, man. I try. Bottom line is, right, is that they couldn't do too much this offseason. They did but they brought in some character guys. Yeah, Shattenkirk is definitely not the Shattenkirk we know of old, but still is a quality NHL defenseman that'll be able to give him solid minutes. Now, it's going to be tough. The Atlantic Division is a tough division, just like the Metropolitan, and trying to battle against not only your own division, but the other division for wild card seating is going to be tough. Like I said, I'm just disagreeing with the poll. I just want us all to gang up and say the Bruins are missing it, and just to say that there is a chance that they could get in because Costa is the next face of this franchise.
I mean, he is. Yeah, he is. No doubt about that.
I mean, I agree. I don't think, me personally, I don't think the depth is there like it has been. I just think they lost too much. They lost at least four of the players off the top three lines. And they're not just small name guys. They're big name players. I mean, anything can happen. I could be wrong. Maybe James vanRiemsdyk turns into that 30-goal scorer he used to be. Playing on that power play with Paso. I mean, we don't know. I think they lost a lot, man. They lost a lot.
But they lost age too. They've gotten younger. And
True.
I mean, that's something that they had to do.
True.
So let's see here. Before I give my piece on this, let's see what the fam is thinking here. Mike Dunn is saying disagree because he believes that I'll start the talk of this stream and say that the Bruins should be the division winner. So he's thinking that the Bruins, even with the losses they took, still managed to take the Atlantic Division. Prism's going to say agree to the poll. Swoopy's going to say disagree. Bruins Pooh Bear tweet saying we will be replaced by Buffalo. So obviously he doesn't think his team's getting in. And let's see who else threw out a disagree and an agree here. I think that is it. So, Flyers fans saying Bruins ain't making the playoffs. And I think that's it for now. So feel free to keep throwing out the agrees and disagrees on how you feel about the Bruins, fam. So with that, on to what my opinion is on the Bruins. I will say agree, but I think that it'll have to be as a wild card or third place. I think that's where the Bruins go. If they have a strong enough season with Pasternak leading the way, Swayman and Ullmark doing well enough in goal, they should be able to get a wild card spot. Yes, they lost depth, but same time, there are some question marks also around the other teams that'll be competing for wild card spots and possibly third place in the Atlantic Division. No one's really a guarantee. Past really Tampa and Toronto, you look at it, Boston, now you throw some question marks their way. You throw question marks at teams like Ottawa. You throw question marks at the Sabres, even though the Sabres are on the upswing as well. You throw definitely question marks at the Red Wings, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. So the question is, could the Bruins take advantage of that? Could the Bruins take advantage of teams that may not be able to take that next step, that next progression to get into a wild card or a third place spot in the Atlantic? It's very possible. Again, the Atlantic Division is getting tougher, but those teams on the upswing that I've been talking about for the last few weeks and that we've all been talking about the last few weeks, they're still wondering, okay, when are you going to make it happen? When is it going to actually show up in the regular season? Because you'll have those moments and then it'll fall apart and then it'll be too little too late when we get to the playoff time. So the Bruins could still possibly make it in as a wild card or third place, but I think that that's where they're going to end up. I don't see them competing second, and I definitely don't see them winning the division. I think that Toronto and Tampa should have those top two spots, in my opinion. So with that, is there anything that you guys feel like you want to touch base on with the Bruins before we move forward to the Sabres, one of those up-and-coming teams in the Atlantic?
Well, I just want to build off of something you just said here, Maddie. You brought up some of these younger up-and-coming teams. That's the other thing they got to worry about, too. Florida's still a playoff team. Toronto's still a playoff team. Detroit's up-and-coming. We'll talk about them more towards the third period. You got Buffalo, who's up-and-coming. Ottawa, who showed a little bit of signs of life last year that they're going to start focusing on coming out of their rebuild. There's so many teams that are getting ready to make a jump. And, I just think that, is Buffalo getting up there in age? Yeah. Did they move some of these older guys to bring up some younger guys? Absolutely. Are they probably going to try a quick retool? Yeah. But, to basically what we've all been saying, this is a very tough division. And it's only going to get tougher as some of these rebuilding teams are starting to come out of it and, start trying to compete again.
No, and that is true. That is something to keep your eyes open on. But again, we'll see. Because, again, these teams, like I said, they've been on the rise. They just haven't been able to make it last the full 82. That's where the real challenge has been for a lot of these teams. Florida is a question mark as well, just because they barely made it in last year, but look at what they did. So how do they respond to that? Let's see here. As we move forward into the second period, give you guys our next sponsor. And our next sponsor being hats.com for the in 2018, Eagles legend Brian Dawkins was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. To commemorate this moment, a B-Dawk design has been launched and an exclusive celebration with Bowman Hat Company, America's oldest hat maker on hats.com. And also, Brian has a love of hats, and the Eagles were a proud display in Canton as well. And now you could find yourself in that same iconic Hall of Fame fedora. Just go to hats.com, search Brian Dawkins, and use the code Philly for 15% off of your order. So hats.com, check them out. Besides the Brian Dawkins hat, check out everything else they got over there and get yourself something really awesome and really nostalgic for you to wear. Okay.
Thought you were talking about me for a second.
You know, the funny part is as I was going through the read, I know you have a love of hats though, Bri. So hats.com is the perfect sponsor for you.
But listen, I'm no Brian Dawkins. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
Listen, who is? So, it's a rare breed right there.
Which, by the way, Brian Dawkins will be joining us on A2D Radio every other Thursday with the boys on Vetted doing his Doc Talk. So
nice. So
don't miss that.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
what time is it on?
5 p.m., 5:30. Too many shows we got going on here. I can't keep them all straight anymore. I believe it's 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Okay,
5
guys.
o'clock. I think he joins them every other Thursday at 5:30.
Hey, the good thing when you subscribe and hit that bell, you don't need to know what time it goes on. The phone tells you.
My watch tells me.
Right?
It told me we were on.
I get that reminder too. Sometimes,
but I actually already knew that.
I would hope so.
Yeah, well, you know.
And also for the first period sponsor, if you are looking to buy or sell a home or you have a change of career in brokerage, go contact Alan Foy at eXp Realty LLC at 302-682-8820 or visit him at alan.foy at exprealty.com. That big step, you want to do it right. Alan Foy is the way to go. All right, gents, so we talked about the Bruins and the situation that they're in, which means that they're kind of on the decline. Actually, they're on a sharp decline now that they've lost a lot of talent. Some of us feel like that's it. It's time to stick a fork in them. They're not going to make it. Others are saying that they can make it in, but it is by a very slim possibility that they can make it in. It's up in the air. Very mixed feelings on it. But if they do wind up having a terrible season, I ain't going to complain. I'll be happy to be wrong about that, let me tell you.
Me too. Me too, son. Me too.
Because it's about damn time the Bruins know their place at the bottom of the Atlantic Division.
just like a dude, where's my car? Daddy, I want to go on that ride. Me too, son. Me too.
All right, so, gents, on to the Buffalo Sabres. Speaking of going on that ride, the Sabres have been looking on all the teams going on that playoff ride for quite some time, and it's been a rough go of it, to say the least, for them. For about, a good 2 decades now, we've seen the Sabres pretty much suffer some of the worst setbacks a team could possibly suffer, between ownership that had been meddling and didn't really do a great job of handling the team, between GMs that were absolutely awful, and on top of that, terrible coaching decisions after Lindy Ruff was given the axe. Overall, it has been a rough go of it for the Sabres. So after a decade of just pure, sheer pain and suffering, trading out Jack Eichel, finally showing some life by getting leaders like Alex Tuck into the lineup, with Tage Thompson showing up and becoming a next big thrill for the Sabres faithful. Gentlemen, do you feel as though that this season will be the season for Buffalo to finally get into the playoffs? Just get into the playoffs. I'm not talking about going on a run. Just get into the dance.
Maddie, I'll do you one better. They don't just get in the playoffs. They finish top 3 in this division.
Oh, okay. So you think that they finish top 3? What are you feeling on that? Do you feel like a specific spot, or do you think it's possible they could be in any one of them?
I'm thinking 3. I am realistically 3. I mean, baby steps here, but you have Tage Thompson taking the next step. That'll be conditional on that. Alex Tuck into this lineup. Dylan Cousins taking that next step, who's been dynamite, along Casey Middlestat and JJP. Jordan Greenway, adding him to this roster is a great dynamite depth piece. And I think the key move this offseason was getting Gergensen his contract extended 1 year. He's probably going to be a third, fourth line guy, but he's just a quality depth guy along with Kyle Oposo and Tyson Yost as well, who they brought back in. Defensively, I mean, solid top to bottom, 1 through 6. And again, it'll come down to goaltending, as it always does. But that'll be the difference on where they can land. But I just really think it's time for this whole organization to take the next step.
All right, then. So Robbie has them finishing in the top 3. Who wants to go now to give their opinion on where they think the Sabres end up?
I'll jump in. Cannonball. So
Cannonball.
I think you're looking at a wild card team here with the Buffalo Sabres. Like Robbie just said, this whole organization needs to take the next step, and I think they're there. You got Jeff Skinner starting to show that he can get that scoring touch back. You brought in Tage Thompson, who had a monster fucking season last year. Yeah, you need Dylan Cousins, Casey Middlestat, take steps forward. You got Captain Kyle Oposo, showing that he can still be the leader. Maybe not necessarily the goal scorer that he once was on the island, but JJP is another one. You want to see take the next step. This is a 21-year-old that can play, and I thought he had a good year last year in his stint with Buffalo. But like Rob said, it's going to come down to goaltending, and right now you're looking at, I believe, Eric Comrie and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen as your goaltenders. It's a lot to be desired there. I think that's going to pretty much be what keeps them from getting that division spot. I still think it's going to be Tampa, Florida, and probably Tampa, Florida, and Toronto is your top 3 there. And then I think you got Buffalo coming in a wild card. But the one thing that I think that's going to be huge for them moving forward is getting Jack Quinn back and getting him healthy, getting him back on the ice. Because he's going to be a huge step for this. He's going to be a huge piece for this young roster to move forward and become a very, very dangerous offensive team. I think they're right on the border of that. And solidly defensive, like Robbie said. Henry Yukiharu, you got Owen Power, you got Darlene. Yeah, that's just your top 3 there. And then, like I said, goaltending. They're going to have to be able to figure out ways to kill off penalties, and I think that's going to be relatively easy for them. And then, get Jack Quinn back, get him healthy, get him to develop a little bit more, because he's going to be a solid second line 20 to 30 goal guy, and he's going to be very valuable for this Buffalo team in order to get, make a deep run into the playoffs, not just getting there, but making a run.
Yeah. So, okay. So you've got the Sabres going in on the wild card. Possibility there, maybe depending upon who they draw, maybe they can give that team some frustrations and a little bit more than they wish to handle. And although you do bring up a good point with the goaltending, that is always something to worry about. Although Vegas has proven that goaltending ain't everything, because if you can win a cup with Adin Hill, then by God, you can win it with anybody. So,
yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be Luukkonen as their starter. He's 24 years old. He's probably just about to hit his prime. And we'll really see where he is. And as for Comrie, he's a 28-year-old backup, probably AHL goaltender, starter. Not going to set the world on fire. Clear backup. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. I know they have I'm going to see if I can find his name real quick. They had a kid come up last year.
Devin Levy.
Devin Levy, yes. Yep. Yes, he had a good little showing in that small sample size that he had with the Buffalo Sabres last season. So I think he might be the guy of the future. But if Luukkonen can, maintain some kind of stability early on and put Buffalo into good shape, I think you see Levi come up, and maybe sky's the limit for this Buffalo team.
Right. And the defense can make either goaltender look better.
Agreed.
So, with that, Brad, how do you feel about your fellow New York team? The Buffalo
this
Sabres.
I think this team is going to be a powerhouse. I think this is the year they finally break through. Based on what I saw of Devin Levy last year, especially the 2 games he played against the Rangers, he was lights out. He was outstanding. Now, I get it. It's only 7 games, but he was 5-2 with a 2.94 goals against average. But the guy really, he makes when he played against the Rangers, he stood on his head. He looked spectacular. He made some great saves, and I mean, he just looks like he is the part. Now, whether he's going to start as the number 1 goalie for the beginning of the season or not, that remains to be seen. I mean, it's going to depend on camp. But I have a feeling by the middle of the season, that guy is going to be the number 1 goalie. And, based on that, they just are a powerhouse offensively right now. Defensively, they seem to be still mistakes, but I think that their defense is going to get better. I mean, Owen Power last year had a pretty good year, and I expect a lot more out of him. He's a young kid, and he showed a lot last year. I mean, he was a +10 last year. That's pretty good for he was a rookie defenseman last year. So, being that this is going to be a second year in the league, you're looking at a guy who should jump and raise his level of play. And then obviously Rasmus Dahlin had 73 points last year. So this team is going to be tough. They have a great power play. All I can say about Buffalo is if that team starts getting on top of you, you're going to be in trouble. They have, in my opinion, Edmonton type potential offensively, and they might actually have better goaltending than Edmonton. So we will see what happens to the Sabres, but I think top 3 for sure. I think they're going to challenge. I think they're going to challenge for the division. I think they're the team that makes the big jump like the Devils did last year. And the Atlantic Division better be ready for them because that was a big run. And yes, Ryan, the Ullmark was traded to the Bruins from the Sabres, but Ullmark was never going to play like that for the Sabres because the Sabres at the time had no defense. They have a defense now.
So you believe that the Sabres will not make it, or do you think they will?
Oh, they're going to make it. I think they have a chance to win the division.
All right, then. Okay, so
I think they're going to be the Devils of this year.
Okay, so you think the Sabres are going to come out swinging and surprise everybody and snag an Atlantic Division title?
I say watch out the first 10, 15 games because if this team comes out swinging and gets off to a hot start, they're just going to get better and better.
Okay.
I think maybe the first 1 or 2 games of the season, it might be a little difficult, but you know what? When the jitters go away after the first couple of games, they're going to be dynamite. They're going to score a lot of goals. They're going to be very uncomfortable to play against. Jordan Greenway gives them that edge that they really badly needed, and they're sensational with Cousins on the first line and Tuck. They're loaded. They really are. They really are loaded. And Thompson, how do you stop Thompson? Thompson's like the new Phil Esposito. He gets camped in front of that net with that shot, and he is impossible to move. And for those of you who remember Phil Esposito, he was a big, burly Boston Bruin who scored 78 goals in a season before a fella named Gretzky came along and kind of took over that particular issue. But this guy gets in front of the net. He's got a great shot. He's almost impossible to stop. He's 6'6", 240 pounds or something like that. And he can
taller than that. I think he's like 6'8".
Yeah, he can fly. He can fly around that ice. He's a bear to deal with.
Big dude.
So he's a power forward. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, they're gonna, that team is going to be. I'm just glad they're not in the Metro because that team's going to be just a bear to have to play against.
And similar to Chara, that big body, that tall lankiness, he can get a lot on his shot because of that. And that's why his shot is as powerful as it is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And he's also great at one time in the puck, too, which Phil never did. Phil just used to stand in front of the net and nobody could move him and with that wrist shot. And he had deadly accuracy. This guy can score from distance because he's got such a hard slap shot. I mean, especially off the pass.
So before I give my take on the Sabres, quick look at the fam here. Mike Dunn said, here's my take on the Atlantic Division. I don't believe that more than 3 makes the playoffs because let's not forget how stacked the Metro Division is with the Canes, Devils, Rangers, Islanders, and the I'm going to say he wants to say the Shenguins, but I'm going to say he wants to say the Shitguins on that one. That would be my personal take on what Mike wanted to say on that
How about
one.
the Shegwins because of Cindy Crosby?
That's what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, fair point. I mean, this Eastern Conference is brutal.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Bruins Pooh Bear saying, how about we move Boston to the Metro because chaos? Flyers fans respond to that as like, no, we don't want Boston in the Metro.
No, we got enough pains in the asses in the Metro right now.
Goathead Saber, obviously his time to shine, saying, we will be 3rd behind Florida and Tampa, and Toronto moves to 4th. So he thinks Toronto will take a step back to the wild card. And Buffalo will move ahead of them. So interesting. So Robbie and Goathead are on the same wavelength for this particular evening.
Yeah, but they usually wait to the playoffs to choke. They don't usually choke in the regular season. They're regular season Tigers. I mean, they playoff choke, not regular season choke.
This is the beginning of the end, Brad.
This
is the beginning of the end. It's going to start deteriorating from here for them and for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Tampa Bay, I can see. I don't know about Toronto yet. I don't know if they're old enough to be. They're quite old enough yet.
Austin Matthews to Arizona confirmed.
You just want Austin Matthews. You want them to stink so Austin Matthews comes to Philadelphia, don't you?
Oh yeah.
There you go. Okay. See, I knew there had to be there had to be a reason for that one, and I don't blame you. By the way,
are you sure that going to Philly is an improvement over Arizona? All right. Okay.
They actually have fans coming to the games in Philadelphia.
Okay, well, that's a good point.
I mean, Arizona is like, either a wedding or a bar mitzvah going to one of those games.
And there's a hockey game just happened to be going on in the background. Okay,
yeah, well,
gotcha.
No, the hockey fans is the hockey game is the band playing.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yeah, the stands are having the ceremony, and they're just out there playing hockey.
So Brinkman's saying Boston always seems to figure it out. That's his take on the poll. Mike Dunn says that the Sabres will end up 5th. And go to Sabres never won a cup yet, but we deserve 1 cup. Well, the closest that was 99, and Brett Hull's skate was in the crease, and it scored.
We got ripped off that year. Yes, you did.
Me Metal Mike saying Boston jumps to 3rd, so he believes they'll go to 3rd. He also says Montreal will still be last in the Atlantic. And he says, imagine a wild card where Buffalo faces off with the Flyers because torts. That would make me hate Buffalo all over again. I still don't really like them anyway. So, yeah, my hatred for them would be very much re-sparked if we had to face Buffalo in a playoff series right now.
I think you'd see a lot of Jordan Greenway and Nick Delorier getting to...
Oh, there would be a few.
Yeah, they would certainly not be going out to dinner together.
No, they wouldn't. And he's saying Buffalo's in 3rd. And Greg's saying, what's up, fellas? Agree to the poll. Fuck Boston.
Agreed.
And to finish that up, Swoopy's saying Colin White signed a PTO with Pittsburgh. And he also says Austin Matthews plays center, but is more of a wing style player. All right, then. So my take on the Sabres, I will say I think that they will absolutely threaten for a wild card spot, possibly 3rd place. However, I will say a wild card is very much a possibility for them. I think 3rd place, a few things have to go their way. They have to get a couple of lucky breaks if they want to get 3rd place. And the lucky breaks I'm talking about is one of the top teams in the Atlantic is really struggling, and that allows for the Sabres to swoop in and snag 3rd place from them right before the season comes to a close. And also, I think the wild card is very much a possibility for them, but it's going to be a very tight race for them in this very congested wild card situation that we'll have. But I think that 4th place will be the most likely finish for the Sabres. So I think they could get a wild card spot, and they probably will get a wild card spot. And depending upon who they draw, maybe they even upset a division winner. Maybe. Maybe they upset the Metro winner or the Atlantic Division winner. It's possible. Might be one of those 7-game series where even if the division winner walks away from, they'll say, damn, all right, we got to keep our eyes on those kids because they got something going on over there. I think that's what it'll turn out to be for Buffalo this season. All right, then. So with that, that'll take care of the second period and our Buffalo Sabres talk. Unless, gentlemen, there's anything else you want to throw out there.
No, I think we covered it all.
All right, then. So with that, we will take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we will jump headlong into the third period to talk about the red and white Detroit Red Wings going to Hockey Town. But after this.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
Awesome looking store right there. All right, then. So, on to the third period. On to the third period we go, which is brought to you by none other than... Hold on a sec. Pull that up. There we are. Alonzi Travel, specializing in creating the vacation of your dreams, whether it's to Disney, Universal, or wherever your heart's called to. Let their talented team of travel experts, which does include Chucks and Ritz, so make sure you get them in particular, so that they can create the travel experience that's a custom vacation all for you that you can enjoy and have a great time with. All you'll have to do then is just pack and catch your flight. You don't have to go through all the meticulous stuff of planning it out. Oh, and also probably get time off from work. That's a better idea, too. You don't want to come back from vacation and realize you lost your job. So that's the other important thing, too.
Nothing hurts me more than a guy who no-call, no-shows.
Yeah, that's a frustrating one. All right, so with that, the third period opens up, and we have the Detroit Red Wings taking the ice. Gentlemen, last year, bit of a rough one for the Red Wings. And I say a bit of a rough one because we kind of thought this would be the year last year that the Red Wings would finally take that next step moving forward, that they might actually be a threat in the wild card, that they could make it, and maybe even possibly sneak into third place if a team starts stumbling a little bit. But yeah, it didn't happen. The Red Wings had a bit of a setback, a couple of setbacks actually last year that ultimately resulted in them missing the playoffs once again. And now a lot of people are wondering, Stevie, your plan worked in Tampa. Why the hell is it stalling here in Detroit? What the fuck's going on, man? Like, when are we supposed to get into the playoffs? This is starting to get a little annoying, which I get it. I really do. It is frustrating when your team looks like it's going in the right direction, but they stall out in a season we thought they were going to take that next step. So, gentlemen, what do you think? Do you think that the Red Wings can make up for that this year by giving their fans something to cheer about, by taking a wild card spot, third place, maybe getting into the top three? Do you think the Red Wings take that next step, or do you think we have another stall out for them?
I don't think that looking at this roster, I don't think this team is built to stall out, man. I'm looking here. I'm trying to find a weakness here, and I don't on paper, I don't really see one except for goaltending, but they got a young goaltender getting ready to come up. But, you got a solid defense with Ben Sherrod, Shane Gostisbehere, Justin Holl, Ole Mata, Jeff Petrie, all centered around Maury Sider.
Yeah.
And then you're looking on offense, Dylan Larkin, Alex DeBrincat, Andrew Kopp. David Perron found his scoring touch again back in Detroit there. Christian Fischer came over. You got Lucas Raymond, who's a stud. And you got Joseph Valeno, who's a solid potential middle six style of centerman. So like there's a lot of talent on this roster. I don't know if you see a stall out. I definitely think this is going to be a much improved team from last year. I think special teams is going to really be what is going to make or break this team. But ultimately, I think this is going to be a much better team than last year. I don't think they make the playoffs, not because of the inability. I just think there's too much competition. And unfortunately, somebody's got to miss, right? So for me, Detroit is going to be better. They are going to be a very competitive team. I think they just miss out because I think there's just a few teams better than them. But I think they're going to be a very good team. They're going to make a lot of noise in Motor City. You're going to have your hockey team back.
All right, then. Swoopy saying exactly, Bri. Explained my takes on Detroit above. And don't worry, you're mean metalhead there, Mike. We will be doing live reactions to Flyers games. So I'll go for my opinion on the Red Wings. I feel like the Red Wings here, they're in the same boat as Buffalo, a team that really has something to prove this year and has to really work towards it. But I think it's very possible for the Red Wings to get into a wild card spot. I actually think that if things go right for them and they are able to ride a wave of momentum, yes, goaltending is question mark, but still, if everything starts to break well for them and they start to ride a hot wave, maybe they get into the top 3 in the division and maybe even jump up to second and really start causing some headaches for a couple of the bigger teams in the Atlantic. I think it's possible for the Red Wings. I just think that they need to make a gel in the playoff, and not the playoffs, in the regular season, because that's where the problem has been. Whether it's been injuries, whether it's been lack of strong goaltending, whether it's been a step back or a step forward or 2 steps forward and 3 back, it just seems like the Red Wings have had a lot of give and take with their 82 games. And yes, you're going to have your ebb and flows, but for the Red Wings, their streakiness has murdered any hopes they've ever had of trying to get anywhere over the last few seasons. So I think, though, they can alleviate that this year. I mean, Bri was talking about their roster and how strong it is. If everything gels well for them, there's no reason why this team can't be 4th, 3rd, or possibly even 2nd. They could really be a very hot team that could frustrate everybody in the Atlantic Division, to where the Red Wings not only come back to the playoffs, they come back by kicking the door wide open and saying, "Hi, guys, you remember us? We used to be in the West. Now we're here, and we're coming for cups." Just wanted to let you know that. So, Rob or Brad, who wants to give their take on the Red Wings?
No, I'll go. I'll go. Why not? Listen, I know you guys are high on the Red Wings. I'm not, okay? And unless I see some improvement defensively, there's no way that they can compete in that division and make the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. I look at 3 players, guys. Lucas Raymond, okay, who was okay last year. 17 goals, 28 assists, 45 points. Minus 17, by the way. This is a team that really has to improve their 5-on-5 because it was awful. Andy Kopp, they got the Rangers as a free agent, only scored 9 goals last year. That cannot happen. Andy Kopp needs to go back to being a 25 to 30 goal scorer again. Okay, that has to happen. And the third guy, who I think really needs to pick it up, is Seider. Okay, Seider can't be minus 11 as your number 1 defenseman. Can't happen. Okay, these guys have got to be better 5-on-5. Stop relying on your power play. I know you've got some pretty good offensive players, but you know what? 5-on-5, your whole team is minus. I mean, you want me to go through the plus-minus guys? Because I think that's a very important stat. Okay? Dylan Larkin, minus 7. David Perron, minus 7. Kuliak, minus 15. Lucas Raymond, minus 17. Seider, your best defenseman, minus 11. Bregan, minus 14. Villano, a center, minus 12. Ben Chariot, defenseman, minus 31. Now I know he played a lot of his season with the stinky Arizona Coyotes, but still, these statistics, as far as plus minus are concerned, have got to change. What this says is this team 5-on-5 flat out stinks, and unless this changes, they're not going to make the playoffs in that division. No way. They're going to have to play a lot better defensively. And as I said, those 3 players, okay, they have got to pick it up big time, especially Kopp and Raymond. No excuses. 9 goals and 33 assists for Andy Kopp. Come on, Andy. You're better than that.
I agree. And that's why I think you saw them address that need this offseason, bringing in, what was it, three new defensemen into the mix here. And not to make any more excuses for the defensemen, because you're right, because they have to be better 5-on-5. I think the goaltending situation right now is tough for them as well. Alex Nedeljkovic was just straight trash last year for Detroit. I think that hurt them as well. So, again,
so either.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The plus minus is a pretty important stat. I look at it a lot to determine how good guys are playing the two-way game. But again, not making excuses, but give a little bit of defense to the defenseman here. But I wholeheartedly I agree with you. They do need to be better defensively in 5-on-5.
All right. Robbie, how do you feel about Hockey Town?
Well, I'll stem from the points these gentlemen are making right here. So, yes, a poor 5-on-5 team. Lots of negatives there in the plus minus. But the offseason addressed a lot of it. And I do agree with you, Brian, on that point. So you're both right. You bring in JT Compher. He was a +8 for the Avalanche last year, +6 the year before. He'll help on that 5-on-5. I think that was a great acquisition. And then you add an awesome, hopefully soon to be top line winger in Alex DeBrincat. Has he been a great scorer? Yes. Can he be a number 1 line scorer? With when you're playing alongside Larkin and Lucas Raymond, right? It was, young pup too. Him and Mo came in drafted at the same time, right? So there's gonna be lots of maturation with this team, but I fall where I think this team could make the playoffs. They're going to be the team that Boston competes with for that wild card spot from this division, right? Or even if it's both of the wild cards coming from the division, I think it'll ultimately boil down between Boston and Detroit, and the key will be, what do you get out of your netminder? Now, I've been a big proponent of Ville Husso, right? I know he's the guy that's right now, not the guy of the future, but he could still be a really good right now guy. So there's some question marks, but I think the acquisitions that they made this offseason has made this a better hockey team. And I do think they will go down to the wire competing for a playoff seed.
All right. So all around, Brad, not so sold on the Red Wings. Me, Brian, Rob, we have a good feeling that this team could make some noise, possibly make it into the playoffs or into the top standings of the division, maybe a wild card spot. And from the fam here, me and Metal Mike is saying Red Wings could be a wild card at best. We could see them lose to Buffalo in a wild card series in 6. I guess you mean in the race, possibly for that wild card spot. And Penguins got Crosby Finn says a hot take: Red Wings versus Penguins wild card round. Well, it'd be a little hard for 2 wild cards to face off with each other because they don't face off with each other in the first round. But I get what you're saying. It would be interesting to see the Penguins and the Red Wings face off with each other in the first round. Be the first time the 2 teams have met in a playoff series since the 2 back-to-back years they faced each other in the Stanley Cup Finals. So that would be a very intriguing battle. That's one of the reasons why I would really like to see the Red Wings get back to the playoffs. As much as storied historical rivalries they have with teams in the West, which they do, they have some interesting battles they could have with some teams in the East.
You know how this could work out, Maddie? It could work out where the Red Wings take first in this division and they play the Penguins in a wild card game or wild card round.
Well, that would be interesting. That would be very, very
that's happening. I don't think the Red Wings are finished first, and I don't think the Penguins are making the playoffs. Sorry, not sorry.
You got. Listen, here's the thing with Detroit, though. In all seriousness, are they better than the Islanders, and are they better than the Penguins? Because the only way they can finish 4th or 5th and make the playoffs is if they beat those 2 teams out.
Well, yeah.
And
I'm joking with the Penguins. They could. I mean, they addressed some issues this offseason, as we talked about.
Yeah, the Penguins are going to be better this year. The Penguins are not going to miss the playoffs this year. I don't think.
Well, they only missed by 1 point anyway, so the fact that they only missed because they screwed up at the very end of the season, that pretty much says that this team is probably going to make it in this year. Probably.
Yeah, they got this defenseman that I think might help them a little bit too.
Yes, just a little bit.
Yeah,
He didn't do much for the Sharks, but he might do a little bit of something for the Penguins.
he got a goal or two last year for the Sharks, though.
He did, but unfortunately on a team that's pretty much going to be in the doldrums for a little while.
Yeah.
All right. So, gentlemen, anything else we wanted to talk about with the Red Wings?
I'm good.
Good.
All right, then. So that'll finish up our talk with the Detroit Red Wings. We now turn our attention to overtime. And overtime is brought to you, meaning our shootout segment. Not only is it brought to you by, of course, Specialized Physical Therapy, it is also being brought to you by another one of our show sponsors. That is Gleason's Bar, located 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, PA. You use the promo code at A2D for 10% off of your order whenever you dine and take out. You go online at Gleason'sBarandSteaks.com. And for everyone out there who is chiming in the fam, we thank you very much. Your comments tonight brought to you by Baggio's Bread. If you're having a get-together or you're having any type of fun little family party, or maybe you're having a sports party or what have you, Baggio's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. They are the home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pies, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. If you mention A2D, you get 10% off of your in-store purchase. All right. So to the shootout we go, which is Penguins fan wants to know how Montreal do. We'll have to stay tuned for that because we'll break down the rest of the Atlantic Division teams next week possibly. So we'll have to stay tuned on that. So to the shootout we go, which has been normally the top 5 players, and no trending has changed. We're not bucking trends here. We are going to do the top 5 all-time Bruins, Sabres, and Red Wings. And should we do the original 6 teams last and do the Sabres first? Because I feel like the Red Wings and the Bruins might be a little bit more of a challenge since they've been around for almost 100-plus years, both of the teams.
Agreed.
I'm good.
All right, then. So to the Sabres we go. So for the top 5 all-time for that, I'll start it off. Number 5, I will roll with Alexander McGillney. Don't like McGillney for obvious reasons. Next up, Jason Pominville at number 4. And then at number 3, I got to throw in Miroslav Satan just because of his last name.
Hail Satan.
Satan.
And then number 2, I will throw in none other than the Dominator himself, Dominik Hasek. I mean, it's Dominik Hasek. I don't think I can stress that anymore than anything else. And at number 1, I will throw in his replacement, Ryan Miller, who was very underrated goaltender in his time. And it's a shame that the Sabres, along with the time with Dominik, they could not win the cup with them. Got close with Dominik, just couldn't make it happen. So that's my top 5 for the Buffalo Sabres. Gentlemen, take it away.
I'll jump in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Number 1 all time's got to be Gilbert Perreault. 512 goals, best in Sabres history. First player ever drafted by the Sabres. Number 2, Dominik Hasek. Number 3, scoring left winger Rick Martin, who played with Perreault for the OG Sabres. 4, Phil Housley, and 5, Pat LaFontaine.
Nice. Metal Mike saying top 5 Sabres: Danny Briere, Miroslav Satan, Dominik Hasek, Jack Eichel, and Ryan Miller.
I like that.
There's a lot of good players that they've had over the years.
Yeah.
Say what you will about the Sabres not winning a cup. They've had some great players come through their doors. Brad, who wants to go?
I'll jump in real quick. I mean, my list is going to be a little bit more similar to Rob's. It's going to be Dominik Hasek, in no particular order. Dominik Hasek, Ryan Miller, you got to put Pat LaFontaine on this list. Maddie, I'm going to steal one from you, and I'm actually going to go with Mira Shatan. I love Shatan. Always, it's a name thing. It's a look. He's one of the first players I always recognize from hockey, playing NHL 97, so that's embedded in me. And then I'm going to go with Alexei Zhitnik on defense. There is a guy that, he spent a long time with that Buffalo organization.
He was a big part of them.
Big part of the success they had in 99.
Yes. All right, then. And now we turn our attention to you, Mr. Brad Ryer, guy who may not be the biggest fan of the Sabres. So go ahead.
No, but I think I can pretty accurately tell you who I think has been the best Sabres. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go back to Gilbert Perreault, as Rob's pointed out. Gilbert Perreault was the greatest Sabre of all time. Number 2 would have to be Pat LaFontaine, who was just a brilliant player. Unfortunately, his career got ruined with all the concussions. Number 3, Jerry King Kong Korab, one of the nastiest defensemen to ever play in the NHL. And he was brutal. And he was one of those guys back in the day when that he could score. He was like a poor man's Larry Robinson. Okay, that would be the best way to describe him if you never saw him play. But he was brutal to play against, and he could score, and he could beat everybody up, and he did everything in his power, especially in 1974-75 in that Flyer series in the Stanley Cup Finals, to give the Flyers a tough time. I mean, that guy was just sensational. I would have to make him 3. Hasek obviously is just. I mean, he's one of the nastiest players ever. Number 4, and a guy that I really liked. I don't know if he was one of the great Sabres of all time, but Danny Gare was one hell of a player. And I always liked and respected his game, so I'm going to put it there. The present Sabres, to me, in the last 20, 30 years, I'm sorry, but they're going to have to get some players that they can rank with those guys, because those guys were just sensational players.
All right, then. So with that, we move on over to the Detroit Red Wings and give our top 5 all time for that. Who wants to start up with this one?
I'll start with that.
All right.
That's pretty easy. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Number one is, of course, the great Gordie Howe. Should I just make that whole first line, the production line, with Sid Abel and Ted Lindsay?
You might as well. Yeah, you might as well.
And then, what the heck? And then Steve Yzerman, number 4, and Nicholas Lidstrom, number 5. To me, it's pretty much easy. I mean, that one line that they had back in the 50s, that was voted by a lot of hockey fans as the greatest offensive line of all time. So I'll roll with that.
Well, the Stanley Cups don't lie, that's for sure. Who wants to go now?
I'll jump in real quick. Mine real quick is a little bit more modern. Obviously you got Gordie Howe, number 1. And then down the list, you're going to go Pavel Datsyuk. You're going to go Henrik Zetterberg. You got to go, I don't know, honorable. He's going to be an honorable mention. So you're going to go Yzerman, then Nicholas Lidstrom, and my honorable mention. You got to throw Sergei Fedorov in that list.
All right, then.
It's tough. They had a lot of great players.
Yeah.
So I'll go 5. I will put in Sergei Fedorov. Number 4, I'm going to put Stevie Y. At number 3, I will put Ted Lindsay. At number 2, I am going to roll with Pavel Datsyuk. And then at number 1, actually, I'm sorry, number 2, Nick Lidstrom. What am I talking about? And then number 1 will be Gordie Howe. Whew, almost screwed up there. All right. Nothing against Datsyuk, but Lidstrom's kind of more important.
They had so many. I mean, they had so many great players. It's really that's a hard one with them.
Right. All right. So, Robbie, what do you got for the top 5 Red Wings?
Gordie 1, Stevie Y 2, Nick Lidstrom 3, Sergei Fedorov 4, and 4-time Vezina goalie Terry Sawchuk 5.
Terry Sawchuk. There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe one of the best ever.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, arguably. Yeah.
And me and Metal Mike, top 5, Lidstrom, Gordie Howe, Manny Legacy, Ted Lindsay, and Del Vecchio. What was his first name?
Alex.
Alex Del Thank you. All right.
That's a very good list, by the way. I like that list. I don't know about Legacy, but the other 4 are outstanding.
He was a great backup goalie for, Curtis Joseph and the rest of them back in the day.
Yeah, well,
anyway, so on to the top 5 for the Boston Bruins. The team of the poll saved the, I guess the best for last. Anyway, who wants to give their top 5 first?
I'll rebound again since I went last there. I'll go first this time for the Bruins.
All right.
Love it.
Number 1, Bobby Orr. There's a statue. Number 2, Ray Bourque. Number 3, Phil Esposito. Number 4, Patrice Bergeron. Number 5, Cam Neely, the first power forward.
All right then. Who wants to go now?
I'll go.
Okay, Brad.
Okay. Cam Neely was always my favorite player, but for the Bruins. But Bobby Orr obviously is the greatest of all time. So Orr, Esposito, Neely, Pasta, and number 5 I have to kind of think about. But Johnny Busick. I forgot about him.
Johnny Busick. Oh, yeah.
Great calls, old and new. Pasta, you know what I mean? With as many good Bruins as there's been, nothing against throwing them on the list. That's beautiful.
Johnny Busick scored over 500 goals, so I can't forget him.
Right. Yeah. Then you throw an oldie but good.
And as far as Wayne Cashman goes, wait a minute. There we go.
Might be some hatred from the back in the day with the Bruins on that one.
Mr. Cheap Shot artist who fought left-handed and everybody else fought right-handed. That's how he used to win all those fights.
Oh, so he was a southpaw. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he fought left-handed. He was like Terry O'Reilly. He fought left-handed. Nobody was expected to get hit in the mouth by a left hand.
Nobody sees it coming from us. Nobody ever sees it. They think right, we go left.
Yeah, if you're left-handed with your fighting, man, you got a huge advantage. Just ask Dave Schultz.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll give my list. I'm gonna be completely honest. Me and Rob have the same list, just different places. So same players.
All right. So for me, my top 5. At number 5, I'm going to throw out a legacy one, Eddie Shore. And then at number 4, I'll roll with Patrice Bergeron. Number 3, I'm going to roll with Zdeno Chara, being the captain to lead the team to a cup. And then on top of that, at number 2, Phil Esposito. And number 1 is Bobby Orr. There's just no debating this. All right. Oh, hey, Don. Great for you to show up at the very end of the show, but hey, good to see you, man. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, brother.
We talked Red Wings tonight. Go back and listen.
Yep. All right, guys, that'll do it for this edition of the Hockey Happy Hour. We thank everybody who chimed in tonight, and we hope to see you guys next week as we continue to break down the Atlantic Division, and hopefully when the season begins, some of our predictions holds up so we don't look like complete morons when it's all said and done. All right, we were brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. The show's sponsor for today, Dr. Paul Vidal. Make an appointment with him at www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com. And if you want to become an A2D member, here's how to do that for $9.99 a month. And we will see you guys right here next week on A2Dradio.com. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy. Birds of a Feather is coming up next, so get ready for some Eagles talk. The season's in full swing. The Eagles have a win, so get excited as they move forward for week number 2. Until then, peace and love, everybody.